Hi, my name is Talanda. I'm the franchise educator, and I thought we'd go through some steps to franchise ownership. On the agenda, we have should I work with a consultant? Is franchising right for you? Pros and cons of franchising, a few thoughts to consider, financing a business, matching process, what franchisors are looking for, how to get awarded, rules and guidelines, timeline, can I franchise my current business, and resales. So my experience in this industry is right now I have been a senior franchise business consultant and coach for almost 4 years now. I'm the franchise educator, which is a subsidiary of the franchise consulting company. The website is thefranchiseeducator.com. And prior to that, I was with Rhino 7, which is a franchise development firm, which helped create franchisor systems. I was also a former franchisee of 2 franchise brands, business to consumer service brands. So all in all, I've been in the franchising industry for well over 10 years. I'm also the owner of Sederi Studio Photography, which is much more of a casual business. It's something that I do to keep my creative side going. But with that, I also have had experience on trying to start a business from the ground up and not having the support of a franchisor system. So not only have I been on your side of trying to figure out if franchising is right for me and going through that investigation process, but also the experience of having a business of my own and going through that full entrepreneurial mindset. I've had experience in sales and marketing through Sherwin-Williams. I worked at their corporate headquarters in Cleveland, Ohio, in their grand opening marketing department, ADP sales, and then sales and marketing at Cleveland Crunch Soccer. So consultants, what is the benefits of consultants? How does that work? So consultants are similar to an executive headhunter or realtors for business. So very similar to those types of professions. We are paid by the franchisors. So it is a free service to you. And if you go through the franchisors, it's no different. The fees do not increase to offset some of that cost. So we are here to advocate for you. We are here to help find what is a good match for you. So my role is, as I said, franchise matching. That is about 99% of what we do. But we do have some businesses that come to us and ask us, how do they franchise their business? So we can help them create a franchise system, not us directly, but certainly making recommendations. So in that franchise matching, we help determine if business ownership in franchising is a viable option, and we go through steps to do that. We thoroughly analyze clients' unique goals and skill sets to provide a curated list of potential options. That is based, again, on your goals, your skill sets, your geographical area. We advise and consult on all aspects of the due diligence and the investigation, and we provide financial and legal recommendations. On creating a franchise system, we do help business owners understand what it takes to create a franchise from their business. And then once they understand that, we can connect them with national firms depending upon their needs. So what are some of the pros and cons of franchising? Because it certainly isn't for everybody. Some of the pros of franchising is that it is a proven business model. You have system processes and procedures in place, which can be very comforting. You're not figuring everything out from the ground up. You have the full support of the franchisor, marketing, training, IT, HR, real estate. So you are in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Some of the cons is that you do have to figure things from the ground up if you're doing something on your own. Some of the cons of franchising is you cannot change any systems, processes, or procedures of that business model. That is in place, and that's something that you learn during that investigation. You cannot change suppliers. You do have to go with the list of suppliers that they have. Of course, there are processes if franchisees, enough of them, want to change suppliers. There's processes in place to do that, but just on a whim, you can't decide to use a different supplier. And there are those initial startup costs and royalties. This can depend on someone's perspective. Someone might see the royalties and the startup costs as something extra they shouldn't have to pay. Some people see that as it's just you're paying, one person over another. If you're doing something from the ground up, then you're going to have to pay, different marketing people, different website people, and IT people, and real estate people, or you can just directly pay the franchisor. So a few thoughts to consider and questions to ask yourself is, why do you want to own a business? Will I need a semi-absentee or owner-operator system? How much time can I put into the business? What are my goals? And how much capital do I have to invest? Or also, how much capital are you comfortable investing? I like to kind of joke around and say, if we all had $50 million, we would each have a different comfort level on how much to invest. So who's looking at franchising? Typically, we have career transition people or Plan B. So by career transition, someone's looking for another position, company's downsizing, they're in between careers, or they're just kind of in a what's next. The stay-at-home mom whose kids are, now older or off to college. Plan B is typically they want to stay in their current position. They want to add additional revenue streams into the household, build an asset or an empire. Typically, C-level executive or management people tend to look at this. Re-entering the workforce is another way for people to have the plan B. Too much of the yo-yo stock market, and they want to place their money somewhere else and invest in themselves. They also want to create a family legacy. So is franchise ownership for you? So some questions to ask yourself in addition to the business ownership questions are you able to follow a system? Do you believe in the product or service? Is this a proven business model? Could I see myself operating in this industry? And do I have transferable skill sets for business ownership? So first and foremost, the first step is funding. I like to work on the funding the first step because if you make it parallel again to that realtor for business, when you're out looking for a house, the realtor wants you to get pre-qualified, and we do the same thing. We certainly don't want you to look at businesses that are out of your price range, and it's going to waste your time and the franchisor's time and our time. So it's a good idea so that you have a very clear, transparent understanding of how much you can get pre-qualified for, and then we can start laying the groundwork on which concepts you should be looking at. There are national firms that are familiar with franchising versus your local banks. And this is a hard one. I struggled with this one 2 years and years ago because you certainly want to make that local support. Unfortunately, when it comes down to it, the national firms are very familiar with franchising. They're very familiar with the structures and the processes. The lenders are also very familiar with it, whereas local banks, not so much. It was more of a difficult process, and we became very frustrated and ended up going with a national firm anyway. The cost of capital analysis is something that national firms will do. Some two most popular ways that people tend to franchise a business is 401k rollover. That is not as well known. This is 2 points on this is that you cannot be at your current position if you're going to do the 401k rollover. And there are no taxes or penalties for this type of option. I don't want to get into too much details. This is really the job of the financial person, but these are just some high level bullet points. An SBA loan is another one. What I do like people to consider is that you do need a 20 to 30% cash injection of the total amount you're going to be asking for. So you do need that liquidity on hand. And you do need to account for monthly expenses. How are you going to pay your monthly expenses? If you're going to be leaving a job that you're at or you got laid off, how are you getting those monthly expenses in that you're still being able to live on a month-to-month basis and have this loan? So these are things they're going to be asking. So the franchise matching, how we begin with this is the introspective self. Why do you want a business? What's the capital to invest? What are your skill sets that can be transferable to a franchise or business? What are your goals? Where you see yourself in 3 years and 5 years? How much money do you want to make? I laugh at that a little bit because I want to be careful. We in no way make any guarantees of how much money you can make, but it certainly gives us an understanding that if you have an amount that you want to make, maybe you want to replace an income, then we can certainly understand, is 1 unit going to do that? Is 6 units going to do that? So we can get an understanding on what you should be looking at here. Understanding the franchisor, who are they? What do they represent? What kind of system do they have? What kind of processes? What kind of service or units? What kind of business are they? Understanding the franchisee, what kind of people are currently running the business? Can you see yourself in that role? And getting to understand what that role would be. Legal and financial, those are other aspects to consider here. So who franchisors want? The transferable skill sets is a term I keep using, but this is the biggest thing I like people to understand. Franchising offers you a more wide open ability to own businesses that you wouldn't necessarily start from the ground up. So you could be a C-level executive or a manager that's never cut hair, but maybe you're interested in a hair salon. You're going to have a manager in place. So you're going to be looking for transferable skill sets of operating a business, business management, motivating people, managing a team, following a system, business operations, P&L, cash flows, all of those sorts of things that make a business successful. Popular questions and hangups. Without a doubt, I get these every time with every client. This wouldn't work in my market, too much competition. What if an employee or manager leaves? Which is a very valid question, and we do cover that. I've never done, and then you can insert the industry. I've never done painting. I've never done mold remediation. I've never done hair cutting. It's different with franchising, because as long as you know how to motivate people, manage a team, and operate a business, everything else is done by the franchisor. They teach you. What if I went out of the business? Another valid question. We cover resales here in a minute. I'm not ready to speak with the franchisor, but can you tell me? And that one is an important one, because legally we are not allowed to tell you about all of the business model, everything about the franchisor. That is, they need to tell you that. So one thing that I like to make clear with clients is that speaking with a franchisor and investigation is not serious. It really isn't. It's the only way for people to understand what the business model is about. And it's just like casually dating. No one's serious, neither side. So how much can I make? This is the big one. I put it last, but it is the big one on here. It's the first and foremost question that I usually get. How much you can make is on the franchise disclosure document, or the FDD, the item 19. Whether you're looking at McDonald's or a brand new franchise system, item 19 is always going to show you how much you can make. I did give a blog post on this on my website, so that could be something to help you understand what that FDD is about. But the item 19 is going to be different for every franchisor. What I mean by that is that the larger the system, they're going to give you more of averages, the top third, middle third, bottom third, versus actual P&Ls and details. So some rules and guidelines to follow, and mentioning that item 19 and telling you about the business model that we're not allowed to do. Some general points to follow and keep in mind here. Only the franchisor can provide all of the details of the business model and the financials. So again, speaking to the franchisor is not serious. It doesn't mean you're going to buy the business. It means you're learning and evaluating. There's no business decisions to be made here. You're trying to get awarded, you're trying to figure out if it's a good fit, and they're trying to do the same thing about you. Investigating a franchise is not making a business decision, learning and evaluating. So it is really just learning and evaluating. It takes the pressure off if you think that you're not making a business decision. If you can follow the process of the investigation, you are more likely to be awarded a franchise. So if you really think about it, we've put these investigation processes in place because if you can follow that, then you're more likely to be able to follow their business model. So both sides are interviewing each other. Both sides can choose to respectfully end the investigation if it is not a good fit. And my role in not only matching you with the right systems to begin investigating to prevent loss of time is to help you get awarded. So a typical timeline, this is in no means set in stone, but we start with the initial call. And the initial call, we just casually go through the information, kind of figure out what you're looking for. We have a consultation call after we get paperwork and we go in more detail so I can build the business model. I introduce you to the franchisors that match up with you. We begin the investigations with the franchisors, and then if you get awarded, you can accept an offer from the franchisor. Typically, we like to say 10 to 12 weeks. This can take anywhere from 4 weeks to 10 months. It really depends on you. We've had people going through the system who get to the stage of talking to franchisees at validation and then need to stop. Something happens at their job, something happens with the family, and that's totally fine. As long as you're communicating with everybody, then that's fine. There's nothing set in stone here. So franchise my current business. So this is another thing that we can help people do. So we can do an initial evaluation to determine if your business qualifies for a self-funded franchising or review by national development firm. So quickly here, the two ways you can franchise your current business is we can connect you with franchise businesses that you can then pay to franchise your business. You can a la carte it, you can pay the general one-time fee, and they can help you understand how to franchise your business. And when I say a la carte, I mean maybe you've done everything else, you just need the operations manual done. Maybe you are already working with a franchise attorney on the franchise agreement and you just need some marketing. They can certainly help you with that. If you have a franchise business that has been around a while and has a few units, it might be worth being reviewed by a national development firm, and they can certainly take a look at it. And if they think you have something there, then they will invest in the system and help market it and develop it. Resales is something else we look at. I do have a link on the website down here at the bottom. Is the resale section on the website. But you don't have to build a business. There's less time involved to build that business. So you come into an operational business with cash flow, you have staff in place, you can see the P&L, balance sheet, and tax returns. It is easier to get funding for it right now. And there are people that are looking at resales because of this. So the next steps from here is we can schedule the initial call. From there, if your interest is that you see that it's a good fit for your needs and goals, we can fill out the paperwork and then schedule the consultation call. So this is my contact information. The best way is go to the website. You will see my email and you will see the 800 number, and then you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm here to help and we can do what we can. Thanks.